to go.
Awesome.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of SciStarter Live. We'll wait just a minute here for everyone to arrive from both Zoom and Facebook. In the meantime, if you're here, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Drop your name, tell us where you're from, and just for the festive season, tell us your favorite Christmas gift that you've ever received, or what's your favorite holiday tradition. So I'll go first. I'm Trevor. I'm from Toledo, Ohio. Currently, I am going to school at ASU to earn my bachelor's in biochemistry. My favorite Christmas gift I've ever received, it would be my biggest surprise, was actually my first car. It was something that I was not expecting, didn't ask for. It kind of was just in the driveway when I woke up. So that was my first. So love to hear yours out there. All right, perfect.
And just as a reminder for anyone using the chat, it's going to host some panelists unless you change it to going to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So you can change it to send to everyone instead of just host some panelists. Although holding on to that secret of your favorite Christmas gift is great too. So,
so let's see, we have hello, Darlene. Your favorite gift was a baby alive. Do they still make those? Is that? I remember those. Do they still make them? All right. Right. And you have not yet received your favorite gift, Christmas gift. What is that? What is on your list? All right, let's see. Wait a couple more minutes for everyone to join in. All right. So if you just now are joining us, please again introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from and your favorite holiday tradition or Christmas gift. Let me go ahead and start sharing this. All right, perfect. Can you see the presentation?
not yet.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a presentation mode thing.
Yeah, it might be it then. Let me switch this over real quick.
Which I have not yet received.
All right, how about that?
Huh, that's weird. It
Nothing?
isn't sharing. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, hold on.
I had issues last time. I think Zoom went through some updates, and so now they're
Share screen. Share.
there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, how's that?
Presenter view is on. Good job.
We're good. All right, perfect. See. All right. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves here. Again, I am Trevor Bartone. I'm the content and program coordinator here at SciStarter. I'm joined with my colleagues today, Emma and Roland. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Emma. I am usually on as host, and now I get a break, which is nice. So I'm a program coordinator for SciStarter, and I'm also a master's student at Arizona State University.
Hey, Roland?
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm Roland, Quality Assurance Coordinator for SciStarter. And as usual, I will be posting the links during this webinar in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Glad to be, this is my first one, so I'm glad to be taking the reins on this one. All right. So before we get started, I want to let everyone know that you have two features. In the Zoom, you have the chat feature and the Q&A function. Please use chat to share messages. Use the to option to select who your message recipients are. Both Roland and Emma would be acting as IT support today. So if you have any issues with that, please directly message them and they'll be able to help you out. Again, put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the event. If you do have a question for NORAD, please put those in at the start, because we will be asking them questions partway through. If you are, we'll be looking at the QA throughout the event. If there's, if we don't address it at a specific time, don't worry, because we will answer it at some point throughout the presentation. If this is your first time with us, this week is a little bit different. We actually have two guests compared to one. We have a Mr. Adam Curtis from NORAD, And then we have a Marilei Colon Robles is a project scientist from NASA Globe Clouds joining us today. We'll have them introduce themselves here in just a bit. Before we get started, though, we would like to get to know our audience a little bit more. So first poll that we'll be doing is, have you ever participated in a citizen science project before?
Your wife, yeah. She's just introduce herself.
Right. We took about 80% here. Okay. So a few more throughout. Perfect. All right. And that. Okay. All right. So we have about 46% of you said yes, 38% of you said no, and 16% said maybe. Well, hopefully we can figure out if you have participated in a citizen science event during this a webinar. And if you haven't, hopefully this will be your first. So let's go ahead and, okay. We have another post or another poll. Have you ever been to a SciStarter live event before? Yes, no, or maybe? Last week, we actually featured the top project for 2022 on SciStarter, and that was stall catchers. And the week before that, we featured the 123rd annual Christmas bird count. So I'm kind of curious if we had any returners for that. The Christmas bird count is actually still going on, so very interested to see how that turns out. I believe the last day for that is in January 5th. If you'd like to see past recordings or see the schedule for upcoming weeks, Roland has dropped the link in the chat to see any of the updates. You can bookmark it, check back every so often, and you'll see new events listed on there. We have plenty of fun events coming up in the new year. So let's see, we have 20% that actually have returned. That's fantastic. So we have a lot of new people here today. 68% of you are actually new, and 13% is a maybe. That's interesting. We'll see. We'll make sure it's your first one now. So, all right, go ahead and. All right, and the last one. I want to know who you are. Are you a aspiring citizen scientist, a student, a parent of an aspiring scientist, a teacher, librarian, researcher, or just a bored person on the internet? That's what I started out as, and now I'm here hosting my first live event. Okay, about 57%. Okay, perfect. So we have, let's see, 8% of you are aspiring citizen scientists. The 36% are students. Let's see, we have 8% are parents, 18% are teachers. So we got a pretty even spread across the board. Looks like a few more students in here, so we're glad to have you aboard. Let's see. Okay. All right, so we're all here because we have an interest in citizen science. In any case, if you need an introduction or a refresher, here is the definition of citizen science. Citizen science is a collaboration between scientists and those of us who are curious, concerned, or motivated to make a difference. It's a great way for people to make an impact on issues they care about, all by helping science. So if you want to learn more about that, Roland will put the link of what citizen science is here in the chat. If you haven't already, your first step is to actually join SciStarter. SciStarter is a research affiliate of Arizona State University and hosts an active community of over 150,000 registered citizen scientists, which is amazing. SciStarter also has over 1,600 citizen science projects for you to choose from, but don't let that overwhelm you. It's easy to narrow that down by your interests and location. It's easy to create an account. Just hit sign up at the top homepage. Be sure to enter your zip code so you get a personalized recommendation for projects that are special to your area. You can sign up for our email newsletter as well to get suggestions twice a month. And Once you're signed up, you are ready to start looking for projects. To find those projects, simply head over to the project finder on SciStarter. All right. The first resource that we have for citizen scientists is actually the free training on the foundations of citizen science. On SciStarter.org, we have several free trainings. Several free trainings that will set you up for success in any of the citizen science projects. Anyone can complete them and earn a personalized badge that holds evidence specific to you that you've completed the trainings. There are a total of 4 different trainings. You have the foundations, which are a prerequisite for the other trainings. You have data literacy, libraries as community hubs for citizen science, and then you have the training for citizen science in higher education, as well as the data ethics for practitioners. So now that we got all that stuff out of the way, we're actually going to be moving on to our first presentation, and that would be with NORAD. So I would like to welcome Adam Curtis with NORAD. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself and kind of explain a little bit of what you do at NORAD before we hop into discussing NORAD Track Santa?
Good afternoon. Like you said, I'm Adam Curtis. I am a senior defense civilian. I'm a retired military officer that I worked at NORAD for quite a few years before retiring from the Air Force, and came back to work as a defense civilian, providing my expertise in threat warning systems to integrate the missions in the NORAD Joint Operations Center of aerospace warning, aerospace control, and maritime warning.
Fantastic. Well, happy to have you aboard here, and happy to have be able to get the chance to talk to you. Before we go a little bit in depth, I'm actually kind of curious on the audience to see, have any of you out there actually participated or called NORAD to track Santa? That was actually one of the first things I kind of remember. Christmas Eve, we'd always be sitting around and have the news channel on and hear intermittent updates on where Santa was. So that kind of dictated my bedtime at that, during Christmas Eve growing up. So I was kind of curious if we have anybody that hasn't even called into NORAD. Okay.
I would be interested to know if we have any of the 1,500 or 550 volunteers that we have every year out there that may have been volunteers in the NORAD Track Santa Operations Center.
Ooh. Let's see. All right, so we have, wow, it's actually pretty even split. 50% of you haven't even called into NORAD. It's interesting to see that, especially since the results, Adam, you can correct me if you're wrong, but you guys get thousands of calls a year. Is that correct?
We get over 150,000 calls a year. And that's just the phone calls. There's also 14 million visits to the website, over 8 million Amazon Alexa requests. We even get, over 40,000 requests on OnStar, people driving around trying to get their kids home to get them into bed in time.
That is crazy. So it's more than just, like I said, when I was growing up, it was always just news channel updates. This is where NORAD says they are right now. This is where Santa is. So you have calling, OnStar, Alexa. I also read something about emails. You do emails as well?
Also do emails and social media.
Awesome. And then you have the app as well that I found out just while I was researching NORAD before this. Is that something that's relatively new?
The app has been around for quite a while. It gets better every year, but I really like the format of this year, where it's got the Santa's Village, and each building has a theme, and you can go into each building virtually and play games or sing songs or find out what NORAD does. It's a really neat website.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Let's go ahead and hand that through. So let's kind of go into the history about how this all started. read up that it was a wrong number that was actually received by Colonel Harry Shoup. Is that kind of correct? Or can you go into detail of what happened? I mean,
It's absolutely correct. So Sears had their Santa's Village, and they advertised a phone number where you could call in and talk to Santa all year long. And what they actually published was the unpublished number to the NORAD, or to the CONAD, the Continental Air Defense Headquarters, which became NORAD. In charge that night was Colonel Shoup, and he got the first phone call and started getting subsequent phone calls and realized what was going on. And so he told everybody in the operations center, hey, if you get one of these phone calls, let the kids know where Santa Claus is, and let's do the job that Santa would have been doing if he had been on the other end of the phone. And it's become a 67-year tradition.
That's amazing. Like he could have easily just hung up the phone, or, and he went along with this, and it has evolved into a handful of phone calls that first night to thousands. I mean, you said did you say 150,000 calls a year?
150,000 calls a year.
Wow. And that's not including everything else?
That's to the call center. So what you see in these pictures is the call center. We get so many phone calls that we have to set up a completely separate operations center. But for the kids of people who are working the NORAD Operations Center, in the Joint Operations Center where I work, we still continue the tradition of publishing an unpublished number so that the kids can actually call us on watch, and we can talk to them from there.
That is amazing. So how many volunteers do you have? I was read it's over 1,000, but what's the more accurate number here?
About 550 volunteers a year.
550 volunteers a year. That's interesting. All right. So they are taking hundreds of calls each.
Yes. Oh, it's about every 30 seconds you're taking a phone call for a 2-hour shift.
So who's volunteers? Are these uniform officers? Are they members of the public? Are they family members of the officers there?
It's a great collaboration. So NORAD is a binational command. So we have US and Canadian military working at NORAD, and all of the officers and enlisted personnel participate in the watch center, as well as our families, government civilians like myself, and individuals just from the Colorado Springs area that want to come out and help. We have them come on base as well, and it's a great community outreach program, and we get to really feel the binational relationship that we have with our Canadian fellows here, and their families and the families in our community.
Awesome. That's really interesting. That's insane that they spend. I mean, they're willing to spend their Christmas Eve communicating and carrying out this public outreach. You said there's like 2-hour shifts that they do. Yes.
I'm not sure if they're doing it this year, but the last time I did it, it was 2-hour shifts, and it was a lot of fun.
How long have you, the last time you did, so how long have you participated in it? Have you done a handful of years, or have you been doing this yearly for quite some time?
I've participated about every other year for the past 7 or 8 years.
Okay, so you're definitely, so what's the energy like in that call room? Is it a lot of hustle and bustle? Because you said every 30 seconds.
Oh, it's an amazing amount of energy, and everybody's happy, and we're talking about phone calls while we're having them. You'll have funny situations with kids dropping the phone to run to go to bed because Santa Claus is too close, and it's a great time. So
awesome.
It's a big party. Everybody's having drinks and eating Christmas cookies, and it's a good time.
That's great. So what's any memorable calls that you've ever had that really stick out for you, that you're like, that's why I come back every other year?
The most memorable calls for me was actually when I received a call from a family member, which is, you can imagine, with the number of calls coming in and the number of people answering phones at the same time, that you would get one of your own kids. That was one of my favorite calls.
That is awesome. That definitely will stick in my mind. Like if that happened to me, that would definitely stick in my mind. So let's go ahead and discuss kind of the nitty-gritty on how NORAD tracks Santa. I mean, you use satellites, radar, and jet fighters, these all combined. So how, not just Santa, but the other 364 days a year, how do you track objects using both satellites, radar, jet fighters? Why a combination of all three? I mean, can you kind of go into that?
So we use the three together for the aerospace defense mission and the aerospace control missions to be able to see farther. So radar is pretty limited on how far they see, because they're shooting out a radio wave, expecting that radio wave to hit something and bounce back. There's many different types of radars, but they're all in general a relatively short view. So we use satellites to be able to see further. And the one that we use the most often is a overhead persistent infrared radar satellite that sits in geosynchronous orbit. And for those who don't know what a geosynchronous orbit is, that's an orbit that essentially is over one spot on the Earth. So it's approximately 22,236 miles from Earth, traveling at a rate of speed of about 17,000 miles per hour. But it stays over one spot on the Earth. And what it looks for is an electromagnetic signature from infrared that to us is heat, and heat is visualized as light. And so the satellite looks for that, for the very unique signatures of airplane engines and rockets and those kinds of things. And Rudolph, actually, his nose puts off an IR signature that's very unique, and we're able to track that. The satellites would give us that initial warning and say, hey, there's something hot out there. And then we'd start looking for it with the radars. The specific radar that we use for NORAD Track Santa is the North Warning System, which is many different radars across the northern part of Canada and Alaska that primarily day to day we use to look for airplanes. And so they're sending out energy. The energy touches something, it bounces back. The time that it takes for that energy wave to go to the object and back lets us know how far the object is from us, how high it is, and what its velocity is. And we figure out the velocity by the difference in time between returns. So it'll move from here to here, and the time that it takes to go from here to here is that we can figure out how fast it's going. So day to day, if we see something on the satellites and the radar confirms for us that there is something there, depending on where it is, we'll use American F-15s, F-16s, or F-22s to send up a pair of fighters to go and look for it. If it's in Canada, we can send up Canadian CF-18s, and they'll go and they'll check. And the cool thing about it is when we get up there and we know it's Santa Claus, we always know it's Santa Claus because we've got the specific infrared signature of Rudolph and the very distinct radar display from his sleigh. The fighters will go up and they greet him. It's an intercept, because that's what we call it when an airplane goes up to something else in the sky. But they intercept, and it's a friendly greeting. We get up there, they tip their wings at each other, which is how pilots say hello to each other in a friendly way. And then we escort him through airspace from when he comes into North America through Newfoundland. So the Canadians get him first, and then they pass him off to the North American fighters or the U.S. fighters when he crosses over into the U.S.
So you guys give him his own personal escort
We do.
across North America.
And the pilots that are out there that do it, they love it.
I'm sure they do, for sure. That's definitely an honor to say that they were able to escort Santa. So to get across, of course, Santa travels very, very fast to get across the entire United States in one night. I'm assuming these jet fighters cannot fly as fast. So does he slow down for them, or how does that work?
He absolutely slows down for us. His sleigh moves much faster than our fighters do because he's got to get around the whole world in one night. And time works differently for Santa, but he really enjoys having the escort, and so he slows down so that they can hang out together while they're doing the mission.
Awesome. So I'm actually kind of curious, how fast do these jet fighters, I mean, how fast can they go?
That's a great question. I don't know the top speed of these different aircraft.
Okay. I mean, you said there's, several just in that just fly up in the United States. So it's not including the Canadian aircraft as well.
Right. They're supersonic, but I'm not sure the exact speeds.
Not as fast as Santa though.
No.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's go ahead and check the Q&A box. Do we have any Q&As for Adam? Oh, all right. Well, do Emma or Roland or Marie-Lay, do we have any questions that we would like answered?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat as well. Oh, there we go. Just kidding. How many hours does NORAD track Santa? Thank you, Hauser, for asking.
We track Santa, was it 18 hours? So we start at 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve and go through midnight.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Cool. I didn't know it ended at midnight. Oh, we do have more questions there. If you do have questions for the Q&A, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A and not the chat, just in case we missed them in the chat, because there's quite a few things in there. Does anything happen for tracking Santa before Christmas Eve, or does it like fully only start at 6 a.m.? Like, is there any other pre-Christmas?
This is something that we do kind of all year. The procedures that we use to track Santa are the same procedures that we use every day for the defense of North America. But there's also a large effort that goes into establishing the website and getting volunteers and doing those types of activities leading up to Christmas.
Okay, interesting. And Suganya, I apologize, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, asks, how long does it take for Santa to deliver each present? Do you have that intel?
Like I said before, the time continuum works differently for Santa Claus. And so our minutes and seconds don't really have meaning when it comes to how Santa does it. The fighter pilots that escort him, they say, we see him in the air and somehow he's getting, to the houses and putting things in the houses and we don't even see it. So it's really fast.
Yeah, that sounds very fast. That actually leads to another question that was asked. Have you personally been lucky enough to see Santa? I
absolutely do. I spend time every year, both working at the NORAD Operations Center for NORAD Track Santa, and when my kids were younger, we would call in together and do the, find out where Santa was at, and now I do the same with my grandkids. So it's a wonderful family tradition.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I did want to bring up one other thing. The website for NORAD Track Santa, this goes back to your earlier question, opened 1 December, and it's available now. So all of the games and activities that I said, they're all out there at noradsanta.org, and you can do that now. And then on Christmas Eve, the website will go live with the tracking.
Oh, amazing. I just dropped that in the chat as well for anyone who is looking to save that one. Oh, we have quite a few questions in the chat as well. How many different countries or languages do you receive from callers? Do we have international callers?
We have people that answer the phone calls and emails in 8 different languages. So English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Spanish, and Chinese. So not everybody, but we've got a pretty good representation out there.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Awesome.
Wow, did not realize. I'm surprised that it's 8. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. There was one other question about volunteers and staff. So I know we talked about 500 or so volunteers every year. Do you have like a set number of staff that also is involved, or how much of the staff is involved in this at NORAD?
The NORAD staff. I would say the number is about 1,500 total volunteers out of the year. So that's between the staff and the community, and that's that's what happens during the year and when the website is live and all of that.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot of people. Awesome.
There is one from Brianne in the Q&A box. Do you know of any other organizations or continents that track Santa in a similar way as NORAD? Or
I don't. NORAD has a very unique capability for the defense of North America that we use for NORAD Track Santa, and I don't know of any other country that has the same kind of capability.
Awesome. Does Santa recognize new modern technology? Asks Warda.
New technology. I don't know. We'll have to get in touch with him and find out, because we still communicate with him the same way we always have, with a tip of a hat and a wave of the wings, and we don't stop and talk to him. We don't want to slow the man down. So
yeah, we have much to learn from him then. If this new modern technology, we want it too. Awesome. A couple of people are asking about the reindeer and if Rudolph is real, or if you've had seen evidence. I know you talked about the special, oh gosh, what was the word you used? Special signal, infrared.
Yes. So
yeah, go ahead.
Rudolph is absolutely real. He's, we all believe in Rudolph. And his nose puts off a very unique electromagnetic signature for the infrared satellites, and we can see that, and we always know that it's him.
That's incredible. Love that. And then I think it was, go ahead.
Oh yeah, there is one other question too. It has to do with security procedures that are put in place to protect satellites from being attacked. It's from an anonymous attendee, I believe. Let's see here. Yes. So what protects the satellites in space? Is there a security measure? Is there, what goes into protecting them up in orbit?
So satellites, but just by the nature of being in space and being 22,000 miles away from the surface of the Earth, and to put that into perspective, the International Space Station is at, I just lost it, 227 miles above the surface of the Earth. The moon is 238,000 miles from Earth. So these satellites are somewhere in between there. Just by the fact of them being there protects them. The environment of space is very harsh, and so the satellites are protected from heat and cold, because there's extreme heat and extreme cold depending on which side of whether you're in shadow or you're in direct sunlight. The The satellites are protected from radiation because there's inherent radiation in space that comes from the sun. So the satellites themselves are pretty hardy.
Fantastic. Well, let's see. Do we have any? I think that is to do all the questions that we currently have. Yeah, that is. Oh, we may have one more coming in. Let's see. Yep. So I think that is all the questions that we currently have that was discussed. So if there is, we can go ahead and say thank you for Adam coming on board and answering our questions and allowing us to interview you. I greatly appreciate that. So
It was a lot of fun.
thank you. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to our other presentation for Mary Lay. Let's go ahead and get that all situated here. So I will go ahead and hand it over to her, and she can explain how you can participate in citizen science using globe clouds. So go ahead and take it over there.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be with all of you today. My name is Marilé Colón Robles, and I'm the project scientist for the cloud observations in the GLOBE program. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about clouds and all the satellites that you can match to. So next slide, please. So you might have seen the Globe Observer app, and there's a picture there of it, but the Globe Observer app is just a small portion of the GLOBE program. And GLOBE is an acronym. We love acronyms at NASA. And GLOBE stands for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It's been around since 1995. This picture was taken in our last face-to-face meeting, and notice all the students that are part of it. And so there's students, teachers, citizen scientists from over 126 different countries in the GLOBE program. GLOBE is NASA's largest and longest lasting citizen science program about the Earth. So GLOBE is sponsored by NASA, supported by NOAA, NSF, and the US Department of State, and implemented by UCAR. And the app, the Globe Observer app, allows you to do multiple types of observations, clouds being the most popular of all the observations. Next slide, please. And so the Globe Clouds team is here at NASA Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. We are the very first of all the NASA centers. We just celebrated 105 years, and it's composed of scientists, atmospheric scientists, so people that study the atmosphere and the clouds, computer scientists, making sure that we track and send you satellite data for each observation that you make, and then education specialists, because we're working with people from all different nations and backgrounds. Next slide. Now, NASA studies the Earth with satellites. That's just one of the ways that we study the Earth. And yes, you can play the video. That's great. Now, this video just shows most of the satellites that are focused on studying the Earth. And each one is studying the Earth in a different way, either the atmosphere, the clouds in it, the aerosols, the surface, the land, the oceans. And together, when you mix all this data together, we see Earth as a system working together and how one variable affects the other. Now notice that the satellites are all going around, and some of these satellites are the ones that you can match your cloud observations through the Globe Observer app. Next slide, please. And you can hit it one more time. So I think it'll just restart the video. There you go. And so these are the current satellites that you can match to. There's the Ceres instrument on board Aqua and Terra. The instrument, think of the people in the car, and the satellites are that car. So Sirius is an instrument, it's the person in the car, and Aqua and Terra are those cars, and you can match to Aqua and Terra. Calypso is a laser in space, which I love. And then we also match to geostationary satellites, like the GOES satellite. And what we do is that we merge your point of view of the ground looking up with the satellites from space looking down. Clouds look a little bit different in those two different views. So next slide. So the first ones are these geostationary satellites. So now geostationary satellites are really far away. And as they move and the Earth rotates, they always look at the same spot. These are the ones that you tend to see when you're looking at a weather report on TV or online. And you can match to, here in North America, to the GOES satellite. So no matter when you make an observation, if you send it in through the Globe Observer app, you will probably match to the GOES satellite. It sends data every 15 minutes to us, and then we figure out if you were in the right spot and if data downloaded to match your observations. Next slide. Now there's also low Earth orbiting satellites. These are the ones that go around like we saw in the video. And they take a few days to look at the entire Earth, but they look at it in very, very detailed view. So these would be Aqua, Terra, Calypso, and then we're about to bring in 2023 NOAA 20 satellite. So for these, you can time your observations to match to one of these satellites. Can you go to the next slide? So when you look at your app, there's going to be a check satellite flyover button, that big orange button right there. And when you click on it, it'll read your latitude and longitude location, and it'll tell you when these low Earth orbiting, or these satellites that go around and around, will appear in your area. And what you do is you make a cloud observation 15 minutes before or after the time that it says there. And if you notice, there's a little bell next to it, so you can set notifications to tell you when to go outside and make an observation. Now remember, no matter what, you'll get probably a geostationary satellite data point. These are always looking at the same spot, so there's no timing. But for those other ones, you can time your observations and increase your chance of getting a satellite match. So next slide, please. Now, what we're looking for is the types of clouds. Some types of clouds are difficult for satellites to detect, and they might be easy for us to detect with our eyes. Our eyes are our instruments in this case. And you can say that there's 3 main types of clouds. And if I have any 4th and 5th graders, I think you're learning this right now. So the 3 main types are cumulus, which means puffy, or piles in Latin. So these are the puffy, bumpy ones. I have some right here behind me. Stratus are flat, and they look like they go on forever. So if we were to do a hand motion, this would be it. So feel free to stretch and stretch for cumulus. We tend to do this because they're piles. And then cirrus clouds are really high up. They're always ice crystals or inside of them. And they're very feathery and wispy. So they're really high up. I kind of drew some of these here next to my Santa sleigh. So wispy, always high. These are one of the highest cloud types. So no matter the type of cloud, it'll be a type of cumulus, a type of stratus, or a type of cirrus cloud. Okay, now next slide. Now we are kind of tricky, and we use the word nimbo or nimbus added to one of those words when the cloud is precipitating. And what we mean is that it's causing rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain. It has to have that word nimbo or nimbus. And there's actually only 2 cloud types, 2 cloud types, you heard me right, 2 cloud types that produce precipitation, rain, snow, sleet, any of those things. So one of them is my favorite type of cloud. It's the cumulonimbus cloud. Notice the word nimbus there. So cumulus, it's a gigantic puffy cloud that grew all the way to the top of this layer of the atmosphere. And we also call it a thunderstorm. So we know that it can rain or snow and it's going to be a lot, right? And it can be thunderous. You'll hear lightning, all these things. Now, a nimbostratus, notice the word nimbo, is a type of stratus cloud that rains but very softly or snows softly, and it'll rain kind of like all day long. So if that's what you're experiencing, you're probably seeing a nimbostratus cloud. If it's thundering and a lot of rain all at the same time, like all together, that's probably a cumulonimbus cloud. Now, I have a big question for all of you. So the next slide is our poll question. I have a magical snowman right here in my background, and it was formed by what type of cloud? So remember, it has to be a cloud that produces the snow, this magical snow, to make the snowman. And so asking you, which type of cloud do you need to form a magical snowman? Oh, you can't see it. Oh, right here with the top hat. I hope you see it now, Brianne. So is it a stratus cloud, cumulus cloud, cirrocumulus cloud, or cumulonimbus? And in some of those movies you watch, one of the magical snowmen does say which type of cloud he was. He does. Let's see. And I do need a name for my magical snowman. So if you have a name, I would love to learn more. What name would you suggest for my snowman? Oh, good job, everybody. Cumulonimbus. Very good. The tricky word, nimbus. Very good. So you need a cumulonimbus cloud. Awesome. So next slide. Now, when you get your satellite match, or when you make a cloud observation through the Globe Observer app, you will get a NASA personalized email with your observations matched to satellite data. And you'll get the images from the satellite and any photographs that you took. So what I'm showing here is some photographs I took when I was back home. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is an island in the Caribbean. And there was actually a hurricane really close by. So it was bringing a lot of different clouds. So you see San Juan, the word in the top. So that's where I was. But notice that some areas are whiter than others. Some areas look kind of like hazy. The hazy areas near the word San Juan are these wispy clouds, which we call cirrus clouds. And the bumpier ones are cumulus clouds, that bumpy ones. They look the same from a satellite's point of view. But when you look at them from my point of view now, the photographs I took, which you can take through the Globe Observer app, notice that there's also different layers that you might not see from a satellite. And so this is why we need your observations from the ground. There's things that the satellite can see really well, but there's other things that it cannot see. Another example is if there's snow on the ground. Snow is white, clouds are white. How can it distinguish? Sometimes it does a good job at distinguishing between snow and clouds, and sometimes it doesn't. But you can tell us if there's snow on the ground and clouds present. This is another reason why we need your observations. Next slide. Now, this is another awesome observation that I've received through the Globe Observer app. It came from Australia, and it's an observation of a haboob. Haboob is the word for dust storms. Now, from a satellite's point of view on the left, we did not see evidence of a dust storm. But when we see the photographs that this person submitted, you see kind of like an orange, reddish color in the clouds, and that is the dust storm. And we were able to ask this person questions because we were doing science research with their observations. So again, you can help us see things that satellites just cannot see. So every observation is very important. Next slide. Now here is the table that you can get when you make your cloud observations. It has the satellites that you match to, and you can match to more than one satellite, especially if you time it, the location, and then how much of the sky was covered by clouds, no matter the type of cloud. That's what we call total cloud cover. In the middle, it'll tell you what it saw at different levels. We divide these at low-level clouds, mid-level clouds, and high-level clouds. And then in the very bottom are all the images or photographs. You'll get an image of this that a satellite took right over your area, and then any photos that you took, just like I showed you when I was back home in Puerto Rico. Next slide, please. Now, we use your observations in research, and this is Dr. Brett Dodson, a NASA scientist, and he has put out some research papers using total cloud cover reports from all around the world and compare them to satellite reports. And what he's found is that it's actually really good. People agree with the satellites and satellites agree with the people. Where they start to differ or differentiate is when it starts saying, oh, I see more high clouds. Well, no, I see more lower clouds. And that's where we're digging into right now with our data. So know that your observations are being used in research. Next slide. Now, this is an important question, and it ties to that total cloud cover. So let's say that Santa Claus, which is right here, is about to land on your house, and there's clouds. What total cloud cover, so how much of your sky should be covered by clouds for you to be able to hear his sleigh bells the best? I know. I want to be able to hear the sleigh bells, right? Do you have some bells to ring?
If I could unmute. There we are.
There you go. So how much of the sky would you need to be able to hear those sleigh bells the best?
My invisible hat. I don't know the answer to this.
So let's think that the clouds might act like a barrier for the sound to stay low.
Oh.
So if Santa Claus is under all those clouds, how many clouds would you want to be able to hear those sleigh bells?
How about 67% of you participating? Yeah, a few more of you. A couple more of you. Gotta get to 80 every time.
It's okay.
All right, we'll cut it there then. Are we right?
Oh, good. So this is kind of tricky, right? Because you don't want clouds if you want to see Santa, right? But you do want overcast, close to 100% as you can, to be able to hear the sleigh bells. So it's kind of tricky, okay? So what's happening is that the sound is going to travel back. It's going to bounce off those clouds and come back to you, okay? And so it's a tricky question, I know. Good job, everybody. So next slide. So you can be part of this huge program and time your observations to get your satellite matches and get NASA personalized emails with your observations matched to satellite data. We appreciate each and every cloud observation because we'll use it in research purposes. And here by next year, the app is going to allow you to make observations during the solar eclipses that are about to happen. And we'll need your cloud observations and surface temperature observations for those. And it's a SciStarter project, so you can get your credits through SciStarter for participating with Globe and making cloud observations. Next slide. So here's some information. You set up your account, you get your email address, and then you'll start participating, and then it'll come to us here at NASA Langley Research Center, and we'll send you all your data back matched to satellites.
I will mention here too that that third step, thank you, step 3, they use the same email address. So it being a SciStarter project, if you have an account, if you have it on your dashboard and use the same email address for your account through the Globe Observer app, that's how we track it. So if you're looking for if like there are any Girl Scouts out there or students in general who need like community service time, this is a great way to be able to give proof of like, here's what I did and I worked with NASA, and that's really fun to be able to say.
So thank you, everybody, and I hope to get your cloud observations.
Fantastic. If you do scan that QR code at the bottom there, that will take you right to the app store, so you can download it from there. Okay. So do we have any questions for the NASA Globe project in the QA? Let's see, or in chat. Let's see.
I know I want to know if you've ever worked with any programs that involve Santa.
Ooh.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. But if you notice, I'm in training, so hopefully I'll get to work with the big man soon. He needs a weather person, right?
Totally. There was a hand raised in the chat. The participant, if you were raising your hand, you can continue to keep raising your hand until I find your name. I'm not sure if it got deleted. But if any of you would like to come on camera to ask questions too, since we're nearing the end, you are welcome to request that as well. Doesn't look like I can find the person if they were raising their hand. So if that changes, here we go.
You got it?
Maybe I don't know what's up with my Zoom account, but it's frozen again. If you're able to see their name, if you want to add like a lot of time.
I may be butchering the name. Is it Amani? You should be able to speak.
There they are. Maybe. Interrupt us at any time.
Oh. Well, we do have some questions as well. Amani, if you want to step in at any time, please feel free. We do have some questions though. It says looks like one question is, can we control which clouds are produced?
That's an excellent question. So some clouds are natural and some are human-made. There's actually only one type of cloud that's human-made, and those are contrails. And it's because the airplanes leave heat, and you need that heat to form that water vapor and condense and form a cloud. When I was a researcher, I studied what's inside of clouds, and clouds actually are water and needs a spot to come together and coagulate. That's the big word that we use, and form a cloud droplet or an ice crystal. And so there's certain countries and areas, especially if it's a snowy area, that try to mimic or imitate those sites so that clouds form and produce snow or produce rain, depending on the area. And so we can't officially control them, but there are some people that are trying to study them a little bit more and try to understand what happens inside of a cloud.
That's so interesting. So we do have another one that goes into if the appearance of clouds actually reflect air pollution itself. Does they or do they reflect air pollution, the appearance of certain clouds?
Yes, so depending on what's in the air will affect the clouds. So if they tend to make them brighter and smaller, they won't precipitate or produce that rain or snow that we might want. Um, and then might make them look brighter, which is kind of weird. But some clouds, I know in Europe, there has been orange snow, which is so interesting. And what happened there is that dust from the Saharan desert went up, and those were the spots where the snow formed inside of a cloud. So when it snowed, it was orange because of the dust. And so you might see the result of what's inside of the clouds and the pollution that might go in them.
That's so interesting. So no, we are running a little bit on time. I do see one more question here that I think would be cool to discuss. And it has to do with cloud seeding. How does cloud seeding affect natural cloud formation?
That is an excellent question. So that's kind of what I was alluding to before, and that's the name, is cloud seeding. So it'll just affect whatever clouds are there if it has any effect. Now understand that seeding is natural, right? So water droplets and ice crystals do need a spot. And so being in the Caribbean, I always looked at hurricanes, and maybe those of you in the coast, in the coast of US or any other coast, might look to see if there's any of the dust or dry air coming in. And so that is a type of seeding, if you will, but it dries the hurricane. And so depending on what goes into the storms or into the clouds might make it go away or might make it rain or snow. So there's natural forms and then there's human forms, but it'll just affect those clouds and it won't affect other clouds around them.
That is so interesting. Honestly, that is like one of the areas I looked at going into college for was to study the weather, studying clouds. I find that so interesting. So that is awesome. I think that is all the questions that were in QA that I can see. Is there anything in chat that we can see? Nothing. All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. It was a great presentation for sure. Let me go ahead and through here. All right, we are going to start wrapping this up here. We are going to be taking a break next week for the holidays, but we are going to be returning on January 3rd with a behind the scenes with both Roland and myself. So definitely look forward to that one. And then on January 10th, we will also be discussing a Project Sidewalk. You can go ahead and find all the registration links as well as future episodes that we'll do of this on our blog at blog.scistarter.org. And then the SciStarter Live is right at the top. Check back on that regularly because we will be posting all the future events on there. All right. And if you didn't know, Citizen Science Month is in April, and 2023 is going to be in April again. So head on over to citizensciencemonth.org. There we have a list of all the events leading up to and in April for the different projects and different opportunities that you can take part in to participate in citizen science and help real scientists carry out research that they couldn't do without your help. If you didn't know, we have a lot of resources. So if you're ever stuck and need a boost, you can always reach out to SciStarter either through info@scistarter.org. You could ask some project leaders, ask the community, or listen to our podcast. But I definitely recommend you starting out with the training foundations of citizen science, because that's a great lead way into helping build up your repertoire of knowledge for that. So with that, thank you again. Thanks for watching. And again, join us for the next live event on Tuesday, January 3rd, where we will be discussing a behind the scenes look at SciStarter Live with both Roland and I. Please fill out the post-event survey. Let us know if you enjoyed the topic. Let us know what went right, what went wrong, or you can always reach out to us at info@scistarter.org. Again, thank you for watching, everyone, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great holiday. Bye. All right.